In March 2023, I recorded an episode about why I don't go to church. And even this year, I've been asked so many times the same question, why I don't go to church. I still believe in God or some version of Him. And I still call myself a Christian, but I don't go to church. It's not because I've lost faith. My problem has always been with the institution, the way the religion is run, at least that I've seen it in my country. I'm going to do something that we've not done on this podcast before. We're going to time travel. Yes, I'm going to hand you over to 2023 Coke. You might notice the production is older and it's not the same, but the argument is the cocoa. Take that juice. I'm a Christian, right? But does my church love me more than they love themselves? Because the Christianity is love. Christ was all about love, right? So I'm thinking, if I'm in this gathering, if I'm in this church, the aim of this church is it to do more for themselves and less for me, or more for me and less for themselves, or maybe there's a higher, as in it is to please God, and then all of us are equal and subservient to God and his desires and his wishes and what He wants for us. And when I think deep into these questions, I'm beginning to realize, wait, some things are not adding up. Like, for example, now today in church, I went to church today. And today's topic is just so cliche. And the thing is, when I go to churches that are similar, by similar, I'm talking about like Pentecostal churches. You see, their doctrine used to always have one kind of line, one pattern. Let me explain. Today, our topic was gateways to financial freedom. Like, look, I've been in this church for several years. I've heard this topic at least 100 times. At least 100 times I've heard this particular topic. This is what they teach. And I'm not saying it's bad to teach the gateways to financial freedom. Of course, it's not bad. But when I say, the original question is, are you pleasing yourself to displease me, or how are we doing this thing? Then look at the gateways. The first thing is putting away iniquity. Sorry, I don't mean to preach. Putting away iniquity is what they said. And while I was thinking about this podcast, the pastor was preaching, I was thinking about this podcast, right? But before I could conclude my thoughts, he had finished that point. He had finished the point where he says, stop sinning, put away iniquity. And he entered serving God with our resources. Now, here's where I have a problem, yeah? I do believe that for you to be successful, you need consistency, you have to be willing to improve. So you need to be consistent and you need to be willing to improve. That is, don't give up, and at least do better each time you try. And I think that, coupled with your relationship with other people, which is being nice to them, being good, being a man of integrity, a woman of integrity, and all of that, which is, if you don't sin, a lot of people will like, if you remove all sin from your life and you're doing something, you will most likely succeed in that thing, get money and everything you want, right? But the second point here is 97 go with that. So I'm not against giving the church money again. But here's the thing. My problem is how long they stayed preaching this particular point, and how little they stayed preaching the point of sin and iniquity. They are like, see, let me explain further, yeah? It is so clear that they are trying to tell you, okay, bring money to the church. But you start making examples, giving examples like this. Like how somebody used her salary. She was trying to get her son into NDA, right? And then she used up her salary for about 5 months. She kept paying her salary to the church. And eventually her son got into NDA. Congratulations. See those kind of examples. They advise you, okay, do this, give this sacrifice. So sacrifices, Shiloh sacrifices. So it does, do something big, do something that will hurt you, right? And give to the church to gain blessing, financial favor from God, all these things. And do it. And they emphasize on this type of giving, these forms of giving, so much. Not so much on tithes, but on just this type of free will giving that is not exactly commanded in the Bible. And every church is big on this, even bigger than anything else. Now, I said, do you care about me? Because if you cared about me, you care about my well-being, right? How life will be. Let me come to you, do what you say I should, and I will live. I'll be better off. And you might argue that, okay, at the end of the day, if you do these things, your life will be better off. What are the percentage of people whose lives are better off? Because I know people, even in my family, I know people that have been giving. When it comes to giving in the church, they don't have much. You don't have much, but they will give. They will give what to pay them. It will affect them at home. They will be sad. Nothing will change, nothing has changed. You can say God's time is the best, but at the end of the day, you remove any margin for error because now you want to you are giving God the glory for every single, you are giving the pastor and the church the glory for every single thing that happened in your life. For example, this woman that her son entered NDA, that woman, if I meet her and ask her, did you not do anything else to try and get your son into NDA? You did not call anybody, you didn't call any general, you didn't call anybody that was at NDA, you didn't do anything. Your son just went and applied the humble process straight. And the only other thing you did was to pray for him and give money to the church, and he got into NDA. I can tell you that I very much doubt that that's what she did. I'm pretty sure she did something else, asked other people for help, the same way your parents did when you're trying to get admission. Call people that you know, get my son on the list. But the moment his son gets admission, what happens? They go to the church and they say that this is what they did, and then this happened. And they leave out all the other details to show that, okay, oh, she actually put some effort in other things. And then make it directly to look like, and that is the advertising now. That's how it looks. And I don't like that because it seems like, okay, you want to take from me. You think like you're using my head. You understand? And that is not my issue with Christianity. This is how it is being run because I don't remember Jesus having anything close to this kind of attitude. You understand? So so sometimes I might have questions and I want to challenge certain things. And I have questions, but I cannot ask because in a sermon in church now, you cannot ask any question, at least in my church or most churches I've been to. When their pastor is preaching, you cannot raise your hand up and ask a question. It's not a press conference. And we used to have Bible studies when I was growing up. Different churches used to have Bible. Even my church used to have Bible study where you go, the pastor will sit down, people will discuss he will say something and like I don't know, maybe it's me that has lost touch with, what's going on. But in my church, I know of all the activities that goes on, and we don't do Bible study. I think we did before, but we don't do Bible study anymore. And there's no room for challenging the doctrine or something that is being preached, even if you come from a place where you think it's common sense. So you can now learn from the past. There's no space for Bible study anymore. Why is that? So a church that cares about you, tell me the truth. We've a lot of pastors have come under fire for look, you're enjoying life, but you have percentage of a congregation that are suffering. And it trickles down even to you. A pastor presiding over an entire commission behaves like that, has a private jet, has cars. Even in the headquarters where he preaches every Sunday, there are people who are poor there. There are people who would need a lift home, that kind of thing. Let's leave the overseer for a bit. Even in the local churches, the pastor will enter, drive his jeep with past that old woman that might need a ride. He doesn't take carrying. There's a pastor fill his car with trekkers and drop them as the love that I think God was preaching, Jesus was preaching when he was on earth is not there. The way I'm seeing it, it's just all talk. But really, if you look at actions here, you don't really see that much love. That's one thing I have that with the problem. That's a problem in most of the churches I know of and I've been to. And then it's like a different hustle. How many people make it out of how many people make it? Like when you say you are doing Yahoo, how many people make it out of Yahoo? How many people make it out of the church? Like honestly, if you're following your church, you're doing every single thing. There are plenty of people in the congregation. You're doing every single thing. They ask all the prayers and everything. From look around you, if you're a church goer, or you know somebody, of all people that you know, how many of them have made it? What is the percentage of people who obey everything in the church and make it? So if you answer yourself that question honestly, what do you think is the problem? Because not everybody makes it. 50% don't make it, 40% don't even make it. You can say God's time is the best, but like I said, no margin for error. So when he tries out something else, and I'm not saying something illegal, but when he just finds out the real answer somewhere outside and he implements it in his life and he actually makes it, all the glory is given to God and the church ultimately, because eventually God's time is the best. So they just use these things are biblical, I know, but I know that they're also used deceptively now to help us, to make us excuse every single thing that happens in life. Okay, for example, God works in mysterious ways. A pastor whose prophecy pattern is to tell you what has already happened in your life, which is your past, tell you your past, tell you your past, tell you your past. His deliverance pattern is to be conversing with the demon inside you for minutes on end, asking them, why did you get into their body? What is your plan with their life? Do you like my suit? Do you like some red wine? And then ask them all of that, entertaining the crowd, create that adrenaline rush in their body so they'll be enjoying what they're seeing. Your work is to deliverance with funny patterns, kick the air in front of the person you are delivering and they will just fall. Blow air, they will just fall. Do one funny movement with your hand and they will fall and do one kind of thing and be entertaining the crowd. You're hardly blessing every time you are threatening people that you're going to use your man of God's spirit to cause them, cause this person, cause that person. You trip me for not coming to church and saying this. And then when I eventually come to church, automatically all of a sudden I owe you money. Go fuck yourself. I think we should all just look at how things were done in the olden days and liken them to how it is now. Because at no point in the Bible was it said, okay, things will change and this is how it will be happening now. People have changed it. And now that's why they said even the very elect will be deceived. People who should know God will be deceived too, because a lot of people will just come out from nowhere and be impressive and they will have plenty followers. especially in Nigeria. All of us know that if this country was easier, churches will not be as full and will not be spending so much time in church. It's not because people in America don't like God, people in Europe don't like God. Church is not a big thing there. There are Christians all over the place. It's not a big thing there because very few people are hanging on to it to save their lives. Let me explain this saving your life. Something I'm going to explain here is the miracle philosophy. Too many people in Nigeria and the church in Nigeria, the way Christianity is practiced here, is riding on this factor, riding on this principle, riding on this way of philosophy of doing things. The miracle philosophy. Like a lot of people believe, and the church is good at doing this, making you believe that your success will come supernaturally. In my church, they always use that word. Supernatural this, divine this, supernatural this. Like they say it in context, what they mean is that it's just going to happen overnight. They try to tell you subconsciously that your success will come overnight. I believe that if you're going to be a church, you know that the truth to the way to success is lay down principles. Like I said, consistency, constant improvement. While you're consistent, be improving. And if you do that long enough and you're doing the right thing, you will succeed eventually. And then the church should encourage you to do that kind of thing and show you the biblical way to go about it. Not to just simply tell you that just keep doing this and then this will happen all of a sudden. Just keep doing this for us and then, or for God, right? They say do it for God. And then this will happen all of a sudden in your life. And the fact that I don't see that also makes me feel like they're using my head. If you just calm down and look at the actions of the church from a business perspective, just assume the church was a business and tell me if a lot of things you see are not intentional. All the offerings they collect, the pastors are always rich. They seem to have excess money and they can come out and say, God has blessed us. This commission is. It is the people that has contributed that money. There is no saying other way about it. God did not put money in the account. There's nobody giving church contracts. It is your offerings. And if you are suffering somehow, or the majority of the people that are following are not enjoying anything, how is the person on top enjoying? Is it that because what they preach is this: we are doing these principles, and our life is an example of these principles. I give to God. That is the journey of yourself, for example, saying I give to God. I live this life, and that is why I'm this successful. So follow me, live this life, give to God, which is me or the church. And then you will live this life as well. You'll be this successful. But the difference is the God that you are giving to is who exactly? We are paying tithe to another church, another man. But me, the God I'm giving to is I'm paying tithe to another man, which is you, and there's millions of us giving that thing to you. So your success is inevitable regardless. And then it raises questions in my mind. Money is not the only thing I was going to talk about. The second thing that discourages me from church is that there are too many controversies in the church. And you can say, no, nobody is perfect. Just compare Christianity with Islam or other religions. How much controversies come out of those religions? How many times do you hear that an imam did something crazy? How many times? How is they have allegations of being, what they call it, associated with terrorists? That's just stereotypes, right? So that's it. That's it. Morally, how many times do you hear controversies from other religions? And there's too much controversy in the church right now as it is. Oh, my Bible is my God, yeah? My Bible is where the word of God is. And then if I can read that often enough, I get the spirit of God. And then if I have people I can trust or we discuss about it, I think that's fellowship enough. Let my mind be sane. In my church alone, my small church alone, I can count 5 controversies that I've seen happen. No, it wasn't a big deal in the church, but what gets around. There's been somebody who was in charge of the accountant, stole money, stole a lot of money. He was an aggressive. I don't think he was even born again. He was an aggressive person. He would fight you over money on the church premises. And he stole millions from the church. He went scot-free. Why? Because the resident pastor at the time that also was siphoning money. Was someone that was standing in front of the altar preaching for me was also stealing money from the church at that point. You hear sexual problems in the church all over the place. Pastors sleeping with their wives all over the place. There's this thing about Apostle Justice Suleiman, which I would say for a fact I do believe. I believe that he did those things. And then the hypocrisy in church is just insane. So all these things make me, and then something else again. The Catholic Church have this thing of it's also stereotypical, shall I say, but the issue of priests molesting young boys. It's a big issue. We can pretend that because people use it for jokes a lot. Stand-up comedians use it for jokes a lot. But I can tell you that I know 3 people who have gone to these schools and have, or let me just say 3 people who have had encounters with priests try to molest them. Me, myself, knows that kind of hideous thing. I know 3 cases where that has happened. If this is how everybody knows, or anybody as exposed as I am knows then that's a lot of fucking cases happening in a church where that should be non-existent. And then here's where I have a problem. The organization, even one as small and flippant as Labour Party, where there is a small mistake, where there's a small bad egg, they read it out. Like in Rivers State, they dissolved Labour Party in Rivers State. No officials there because they know they helped in the rigging. And if a church like the Catholic Church knows that there's a problem with pedophilia and child abuse among their priests, if they want to eradicate that problem, they can easily. I will tell you the truth, because what do? You call out those cases, and those people will be met with serious punishment. And at the end of the day, that will be eradicated. It's simple. But why does the Catholic Church not do that? Why is it that we hardly hear of priests? If people are being abused like this on a yearly basis, how many times last year did you hear that priests were prosecuted for child abuse? How many priests do you know that have been prosecuted for child abuse? But victims always come out. And just like girls, I know that some people lie. But there's a motive for one person lying. But what is the motive for a young boy to lie that a priest has molested him? But it happens, because I know that I've seen that happen. So if the church is not doing anything, it makes me think the problem is from the top. It is being allowed and condoned at some point for it to thrive this much and not be eradicated at this point after years of this problem. I will stop there. The Christianity, I know, has too many contradictions, particularly in church here. You go to one church, they are teaching you. In Islam, just compare this with other religions. The doctrine is the doctrine. The sermon is the sermon. The preaching is the preaching. The teaching is the teaching. But in Christianity, people want to just use gray areas to their advantage. They will tell you the Bible is based on how you interpret it, which is just false. It's a blatant lie. The Bible is not how you interpret it. It is written there in your language for you to understand. If something is fake, find the original copy, which language it was written in, and find out what something means to get the original meaning. Not to use gray areas and use our head. Mind us, Christianity is my religion. That is the religion to go. It's the way to go. I'm saying the reason why I do not go to gatherings, churches, why I do not like going there. So talking about those contradictions, one church will tell you, don't worry, suffering on earth is cool. Like, you don't have to chase money. The root of money is evil. And in heaven, that's where your reward is. The problem is some of these churches where the priest is in the deal he's living his best life. And some other churches will tell you abundance is yours. On earth here, money is yours, everything is yours. But that one now comes at a price. You have to give everything you already have to the church first, and then hope that you just wake up one day and your house is filled with money. So these contradictions on one particular issue. There's different issues in the church where one church will tell you that this is the way to go, and another church will tell you this is the way to go. Two different parts. And you begin to wonder. Look, I saw one story on Instagram this morning, Joe page, where a girl said she has a boyfriend in Nigeria. He treats her well, they're happy together. But there's this guy that she started chatting with that lives in Canada. She's been chatting with him. She didn't tell him that she had a boyfriend. He even sent her to his mom during the election to give her something. Then the mom even liked her. Now the guy is saying he wants to marry her, he wants to invite her to Canada. So she's trying to leave her boyfriend. Now, all of that is fine. Make your choice, secure the bag, do whatever you want to do. It's your life. But when she went and met her pastor, and her pastor said this to her. He said, this is God working with divine revelation, but I don't think God believes in hurting his children intentionally. She said her pastor told her that man in Canada is her real husband, and her boyfriend here now is the one to give. God brought him into her life to give her a comfortable life in Nigeria. But that guy in Canada is her real husband. So she's wondering, she's asking how she travel first before breaking off the relationship, or she should just do it here before traveling, because the guy should process her papers. I have a story like similar to this I'll tell in my next podcast. Stay tuned. I'm going to talk a little on the issue of prophecies. In the Bible, prophets never talked about your past. And if they did, prophecy is always about the future. That's why the Bible is prophecy upon prophecy. They will say in an earlier book that this will happen. In a later book in the Bible, you see that happen. That's a prophecy telling you, you know what? Something will happen and she will bear a son and he will be called this. This will happen and this is called this. This will happen and this will happen and this will happen. That's the prophecy. At least to the best of my understanding. Tell me, your pastor in your church, your pastor, your prophet, the people you watch on TV, how many of them, what is the success rate of their prophecies? I asked my dad this question. All the pastors, and every time you've heard a prophecy, you've heard that this will happen this year, this forthcoming election. Tell me, what is the success rate of your pastor and the pastors you've heard of? How many of the prophecies have come to pass? The word of God doesn't just open his mouth to Messian. He will say what God sent him to say, and then the word of God always comes to pass, because it was coming to pass in the Bible, which is our reference book for our religion. So why is that pastors now, they will make, and then it will never come to pass, and we'll just move past it like nothing happened? fake prophecies up and down. And then the ones that want to say they are giving true prophecies, they are telling me what has happened in my life. Come and meet me and tell me your name is Shigoze, you're 25 years old. Your father worked with 7, and tell me the things that you could find out really if you wanted to. Even my address and my phone number. Is that prophecy? So who is a real prophet now? False prophets are everywhere, like we already know. But if the way to find a false prophet is that his prophecies do not come to pass, which I think is is common sense. If your prophecies don't come to pass, and there's a lot of them that do not come to pass, it's safe to say you're a fake prophet. So where is the real prophet now? Difficult to find, Abi. Because the Bible said even the very elect will be deceived. And what makes you think you're not one of those that are being deceived? What makes you think you are following the right one? And that makes me think, oh, I should calm down and listen to my Bible and not anybody. Please, until I understand, because I know that we shouldn't forsake the assembly of the righteous or assembly of God. But I'll just take a moment and think about this prophecy thing and other things. Because day after day, I believe that the spirituality exists because I believe in God. But I also believe that a lot of things happen by chance. And the world would still, there are principles that we are not being taught as we should be taught in church, and they should be taught. Another thing, which is my final point, the ease of alteration. Our religion, it can be so altered. Like I said, the gray areas where people misinterpret the Bible the way they want to suit their doctrine. And, the way that Christianity can be altered, we know that certain things are sinful. But because of inclusiveness, somebody was on Tucker Carlson in which they're trying to say that we should begin to change terminology when we are praying in the church, that the Church of England, one Catholic that's like, I think Church of England is considering it so we can be more inclusive and bring more people in to the fold. Like, anything doesn't have principles. In my life, I draw a line. If I'm doing anything, this is a price. Anything once it crosses this price, I'm not doing it again. This is how much I can give. This is how much I can take. This is how much I can do. Well, if it crosses this point, I'm not doing it again. That's the principle. And then what kind of religion would you be practicing if your religion doesn't have any principles? Why would it be that somebody can change our Father who art in heaven and say they'll be considering changing it to, instead of making it a he, we should make it a gender neutral something? That is wrong. The fact that they can do that with our religion, not do it with Islam, icks me. It irritates me. You cannot do it with another religion, but you can do it with our own. Why is it so easy to alter if it's not been poisoned somewhere? If the religion and what I'm going to church to listen to, if it's not been poisoned somewhere, how is that even allowed or considered? How is the church allowing gay marriage? It is against, society might say society has changed and evolved, but the religion that I believe that with a book and set of rules that have been there for generations are still the best-selling book in the world up to date, which means it is generational knowledge that has been working over time, tested and trusted, which is why it's still valid till today, the Bible. Why is it that somebody can come out now and contest generational knowledge just for the sake of inclusivity? Somebody can say the Bible is misogynistic, so we should change some things in the Bible. The only thing that has changed between then and now is that now I can no longer even participate in religion actively. The chances of that happening is slim to none, because I have begun to understand it for what it is, which is a tool. Just like Western education and many other constructs. And even if I believe in spirituality and believe that it is a realm beyond this one and the spirit exists, the concept of religion itself, knowing that it is a tool, is not something that I can engage wholeheartedly in as a result of that knowledge. But let me know where you stand. I want to know what your own stance is. Where are you really in terms of this whole church spirituality and everything? Thank you very much for listening to both versions of Coke. See you next time.